Poetry and Photography. Who knew that we'd be doing it on Zoom, but art has won the night and we need to persevere with some distraction. We all need a little distraction right now. So I sent you all this list. It's kind of like a program, like if you went to see a show that gives you, just so that as we go along, you can look at the list and you can say, oh, that's who took that picture, or that's the name of that poem. And it just gives you something to look at as we go through. I'll do a quick introduction of our poets before we start. And then the poets will read their poems and I will share the images as we go. So the introductions. Tonight, we have returning Mr. Tom Wood. Tom has loved crafting words since childhood, editor and writer for 2 weekly newspapers, creator of various corporate publications, and executive speeches in public relation roles. He has written 25 years of journals, 2 screenplays, and short stories. His greatest love, poetry, found its way into the CAA Niagara Branch anthology, The Bannister in 2017, 18, and 19, the independent poetry publication Gravitas in 2019. So let's have a little hand for Tom Wood. Yay, Tom.
Whoopee.
Next, we have Elaine George returning as well. Elaine is not in our Zoom meeting tonight. I think the Zoom was a little bit out of her comfort zone. So Tom will be reading Elaine's poems tonight, but she has submitted poems. Elaine fell in love with the art of poetry when, as a child, found an old hardcover book with yellow pages in her grandmother's attic and read The Raven by Edgar Allan Poe. She has since written hundreds of poems, some of which are now used as teaching tools on writing websites and schools globally. Little hand for Elaine, even though she's not here. Next, we have our 2 newcomers this year. Welcome. The first one is Keith Inman. Declared a people's poet for his blue-collar style, Inman's work has won a variety of small press awards, peer reviews, and grants from the Ontario Arts Council. His books, The War Poems and Ccia from Black Moss Press, can be found in major libraries. A new book, The Way History Dies, was released last fall. Keith is a member of the Canadian Authors Association, League of Canadian Poets, the Ontario's Poets Society, and Canadian Cuba Literary Alliance. He also coordinates an Ontario Poetry Anthology contest for the CAA's Niagara branch. He lives in a Century home in Thorold. Let's have a little hand for Keith. Thank you for being here. And last but certainly not least, our new poet, Maury McRae. Maury McRae graduated from the Ontario College of Art in 1986. She won the Forsyth Scholarship for her painting in the final year. She has been the recipient of several artists' residencies, during which she began to explore a shift in her work from visual art to words. Pretty cool. You have visual and words tonight, Maury. Shelf Life, her debut chapbook, was published in 2017. Passerby and Sex, Death in Canada, Land of No Middle Ground followed in 2018 and 2019, respectively. All 3 books are available through Grey Border Books. Maury lives with her husband and 2 dogs in a house affectionately known as the High Hobbit in downtown St. Catharines. We should all go visit the High Hobbit. So thank you for having, participating, returning poets and new poets. I guess, Dave, now I will share my screen so we can start to see images. Now, can everybody see the Welland Camera Club presents? Is that good? I see Tom saying yes. Okay, that's good.
Just a quick question, Darren. Did you want us to stop our videos?
Yeah, it would help.
It might help, yeah. Just so that we're fluid. I'll stop my video as well once we get going here. So poets, feel free to, make remarks about how you were inspired by the photos or stories, or it's pretty free and open. We're going to go one by one, but if at any point you want to talk about an image that you had to write about, or talk about your poem that you submitted, or anything like that, feel free to. Okay. So we're starting, Dave, with Maureen McRae. And the screen should be blank now. I'm going to turn off my video if I can.
Oh, yeah, okay, yeah. Maury?
Yes.
Oh, okay, good.
Yes.
I wasn't sure whether you were unmuted. That's good. That's good.
There we go. We're ready anytime you are, Maureen, with your first one.
But I was hoping that the image would be up. Oh,
Image
here
is
it
up.
is.
There.
Okay. Water levels. Grace sits in stasis. A bee noses by, head heavy. Clouds waver on water like milk. The lake, a circular compound, edged with frog spawn. The sky submerged or suspended, depending on how she looks at it. Sun warms her cardigan. The bee circles back, nudges her cheek, and in one sad knee, something sticks, or a piece has gone missing. Her eyes squirt water, swabbed with a t-shirt, her quart of grief swallowed by a porous earth. Now, I saw several images for that poem.
Sorry.
Okay.
Yes, you will see.
I only saw two.
Yeah, you will see. You will see more than one.
Good
Okay,
poem,
we're ready
Mike.
for the next one, Maureen. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Headed home. Wrapped in southern blast heat, warmth retained in skin tanned brown, headed north to Canada, our modest parts cool to touch, snow-cap white, possessed of ocean's giveaways, fractured shells and teeth the shark spat out, worn on chains around necks in fierce remembrance. Serpentine shoals we played where hurly-gurly jellyfish, mute as moons, swayed on tides or stewed in clots of sand, salt mouths open, great gray tears luminous.
Yeah, most of these, Maury, the ones that that you wrote poems, people submitted images for, they submitted more than one image, so you'll see multiple.
I see. Okay, I was just expecting one.
That's okay.
That's okay. I'm good with that. Okay, sightings. I followed the broken yellow line beside my husband, before him, and behind, as now he disappears over the hill I'm about to climb. Out of habit, we have looked to each other's needs, the splurges of the body to pee or eat, aware of the constant hunger of our differing gobble up gasoline machines, gliding through a funnel of trees on the left and right. The land seeks closure for us, makes a nest of itself, where hay bales have come to rest in a golden field, and the black squiggle of a tire as it expired and gave up the road like a signature on a last will and testament? Will it really be like going home, a stepping off, a stepping out, a step at all, or a mad, glad dash blast of speed towards a well-worn shape, sitting in a mild daze, looking up to ask, what the hell took you so long? I like that last image.
Perfect.
There he is. Okay, area. Aria. Would I land where we began? A song on the pillow of my tongue, grain of love moving us toward extinction. Poised to wander this empty space, desert of little mercy, to clear a path to something, approaching beauty. Does a jangle of sounds coming loose reach the canal of your underground ear? For the weight of your mouth, nose so cold at my throat, makes an opera.
Very nice. Thank you, Maury.
Thank you,
Thank
Maury.
you. That was very enjoyable to see those. I had to look up from the page to see the images, but it was very,
That's great.
yeah.
Yes,
Thank you.
poets, take your time and take in the images for sure.
Good read, Maury.
Thank you.
I especially like the picture of the squiggle, the tire marks on the road with the poem that was at the time the signature of our lives or something like that. It was, I mean, it was perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Mr. Tom Wood, you're up.
Okay. You can all hear me all right, eh?
Yeah.
Okay, I will talk a little bit here. This first poem, El Triunfo, is an actual place. And we actually drove through this place, and there was a museum there with all these pianos in it. And when we drove through, and it was just pure chance, there was a guy there, and we heard this music, and they said to us, go hurry up and get down there, the Russian is playing. And this guy was playing a piece of music that was, it was unbelievable, in the middle of the desert in the Baja Peninsula in Mexico. Anyway, El Triunfo. Chopin whispered, invisible as spiced apple cinnamon and sugary in our ears, wafting over the desert cauldron, anonymous and blue. We sniffed we sniffed the trail, bloodhounds, nosing our way along the tinkling scent to a rickety arch, doorway to the kitchen of delicious sound. Bursting through, our eyes were deaf to the Blunthers and Steinways, the consoles, uprights, and carved baby grands, chiseled jewels of forgotten hands, complicit now with living fingers on the farther side of a dusty spinet. We sat, awestruck, while thirsty clay walls drank the echo of his last key, and the core of what could well have been a cracked and arid place, a lush oasis, quenched and fertile. Yeah, November Corn. This is probably one of the first poems I wrote. This is an old poem, and probably one of my favorite poems that I've written. For me,
Awesome.
November Corn. It's a melody I've never heard until today, the day I walk beside November Corn. Wind, fickle in her stroke, bows the dead and busted fronds, a moment's shimmer, then spills to road, washing on my feet. This chord is nothing green, just brown and harvest blown, a ripple gone. Who calls to me from fields between the space of tussled notes? My ears can only hear November Corn. And this next one actually just got published in our anthology. So this is This one got picked into the 2020 Bannister, and it's called Parents in a Box. I have them both tucked away inside my closet. Mummy in a cardboard shoe flip top. Daddy, more proper, in a fancy gold and baby blue Hallmark container. Lifting the lid, I smell her perfume. Was it L'air du Temps? And my inheritance, $1.76, sealed in a florist card envelope, her shaky script willing the treasure to me. From him, spoils of war, coins and medals, silver spoons stamped with windmills, wooden shoes, 2 iron swastikas, tarnished, ribbons black and red, and rattling under a stack of $2 bills, his tooth, a molar. And there's a story to this one, but I'm not going to tell it. I'm just going to read the poem. I had a conversation with Darren today, and I thought, should I let the cat out of the bag on this? But I'm not going to. I'm going to read the poem, and it's called Staircase. Sun rays pour through the fissures, staircase for dismounted souls, descending on the shafts, tireless streams, sinking to the dung heap of rich and fertile earth below. And it's always difficult when I'm reading. I'm trying to look at the photographs, but I can't because I'm reading. But anyway, that's a beautiful photo. It's yeah.
Very good reading, Tom.
Thanks.
And
Keith.
excellent photography. I mean, really, some of them were just excellent. How well they portrayed the poem. It was super.
I was glancing up at Parents in a Box, and I just caught a couple of them, and I want to look at them when it's over. Or I'm sure Darren, you'll share those with us. But
Of course.
if it's nerve wracking for me reading my own poems. And now I'm going to read 4 poems from somebody else. So I hope I get the inflection right because I'm a firm believer that poetry is more for the ears than it is for the eyes. And I was rehearsing Elaine's poems here this afternoon, and I hope I do them justice. Anyway, her first poem is called Frosted Panes. When winter paints those frosty ferns on my window pane, I find myself a little girl up on your lap again. In that old house there by the sea where you wove that tapestry with all the glorious memories of your life upon the sea. With weathered palms so deeply etched with every season past, you rubbed a portal in the center of the frosted glass, where outside in splendor lie a winter wonderland as halos rose above your head from a pipe bowl in your hand. And there upon a rocking chair, as smoke rings filled the air, we rocked across a sea of dreams, wind tangled in our hair. To lands I'd never seen before, we stepped upon those shores, and through your eyes I saw each one, and still I wanted more. The morning passed in dreams between 2 pairs of eyes of green, as the world outside held its breath in a sea of snowy cream. And when the chill of winter melted from the window pane, the whistling kettle on the stove brought us home again. You held my hand and looked at me with that twinkle in your eyes, and told me you would be my captain till the day I die.
Mhm.
And the next one is called Someone. She swayed with her head hung over the buggy that clanked down the street, and I wondered the will that drove her as she walked without lifting her feet, pushing her tattered life in a cart, eyes fixed in a frozen stare, Was she the tick of a broken heart, soul lost, but she didn't know where? Somehow, she looked familiar to me. Yes, vaguely, like someone's mother, a hint of what she used to be, or the sister of someone's brother. Surely, she once belonged to someone, and I couldn't help asking myself why. Her life had become completely undone as despair spilled out of her eyes. That's a beautiful photo. I just looked up at that. That's a great photo. Okay, the next one is called The Path Most Traveled. And I'm going to make some sounds in here, so bear with me. On the gurgling remains of winter, on a path around a lake, flanked by the casualties of winter's breath, cattails, brown and bent, with broken heads, their backs turned to the pale yellow cornstalk stubble, standing in mud-clad fields that lie beneath scattered hints of green, where a red barn and silo stand and wait. A symphony composed by songbirds and frogs drift across the land and bubbling streams that cut across the path. Moss lies abreast the thin skin of winter, still remaining in places where the sun never shines. A blanket of burnt amber needles and prickly cones lie beneath a dark green canopy of pine, impaled by glinting spears of sunlight where the path, for a moment, is lost. Thump, 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 the beat of leather soles on wooden planks over the marshland as the lake erupts in torrents of water tendrils falling from wings, slapping the face of the lake as geese take to the sky. Honka, 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 and beyond the forest of pines, the oaks and maples display their new burgundy buds, and the few remaining parchments, leaves of autumn that still cling to the past, on a path well worn that circles around the lake with no beginning and no end, where the seasons come and go, as do I. And Elaine's last poem is called Unbearable Beauty in the Color Gray. On a day bathed in so many shades of misty gray, there upon those rugged cliffs above the Fundy Bay, heart pounding like the thunder in those crashing waves, trembling lips dripping with heartfelt words I could not say. So shy, I was a teenage girl, so much in love, my soul on fire like that blazing stormy sky above, where lightning crackled and sizzled in a burning flame as his yearning eyes searched mine there in that windswept rain. Taking cover in that shack with broken window panes, where tattered pieces of old lace curtains still remained. Peals of nervous laughter silenced in that broken frame as the storm outside ragged against us all in vain. When, with tears of stormy weather still running down his face, his lips found mine there in that old abandoned place. A moment so electrifying, it seared my soul with a memory that haunts me now that I am old. When stormy weather lets me see him as he was that day, there on those lofty cliffs above the Fundy Bay, my heart pounding like the thunder in those crashing waves as I drift in the beauty of those shades of misty gray. I really like that poem.
Good job.
Thank you.
Very nice.
I think I did better reading Elaine's than mine.
Less stress.
Yeah, that's it.
It's too bad that Elaine wouldn't. Oh no, she will be able to see this, will she? If you tape it?
Yeah, we'll send her the YouTube link for sure.
Okay, great. Good job, Tom.
Thank you.
Good poems, Elaine.
Yep.
Okay, so up next we have Keith.
Okay, there, and I've unmuted. Hi there. This exercise worked out perfect with me because I had started on a bunch of poems about an old house, and it just started morphing in. Well, what's the home's past? What would its future be? So I just, started going from there. So, I mean, most of my poems that I gave to the club are going to be about old houses. So it'll be interesting to see what they found out there. This is a porch at the close of day. Her fieldstone foundation, chin to the road, is spotted with white paint. The porch made for stepping off onto horses or into carriages, had at one point been carpeted, its corner wagging like a dog's tongue into a shallow ditch of runoff. Below windows that stare straight ahead, waiting for return. Next one is Granite Road. Afternoon light shines down the road, sparkling toward evening, where tomorrow lingers beyond the fence, though both, in the end, will be swallowed by night. The nature of old houses. Quiet as sunlit dust on convections of air swirling into a whirled plastered ceiling, cracked along and down to where children once waited in dim shadows to be called with a nod or a wink, or hand put forth to dance in violin echoes, feet tapping, shuffling, creaking the boards as crisp skirts and pressed pants whispered into the faded past. The house, generations old, is to be sold. Painted and repainted, polished, then varnished. Floors are planked over, the new running across the old, as gardens grew in on themselves and trees fell in violent storms or were cut to heat the home in hard times, as nature reclaimed its ground. Under the weather of time. From the crest of a sun-born hill, you see the old place. Its weathered clapboard and storied windows eyed above a door, agape to deer. The lane tunneled by forest creeps back to town. And last one, yes. Canal Town. I thought this one will be fun to see what the images are. We grew up poor together, neighbors of race and nation, the escarpment looming like a southern border of Stone Ridge trails lined with fossils and shallow caves, the township filled to keep us from vamp camping, double dare smoking and singing of bottled sentience around fires that danced against our bigger selves. As we howled, jumped naked from cliffs to ponds rushed with overflow, carrying us toward a drop-off where soft flesh shone under colors of the moon. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Keith.
Thanks, Keith. Great read.
So that concludes the submitted poems that had new images to them. And now we're going to switch to the opposite, where these are images that we gave the poets and they wrote new poems for them. So we start off with Maury again. Let me know when you're ready, Maury.
I'm ready.
She's ready.
No one's handsome here. At their best, beasts riding the cut, blood rising to the business of bruises, a splintered cheek, bodily fluids spewing like Vesuvius, the brain concussed, cassocked in black, like the velvet interior of a sleek attaché. Did he bring all the money or hold back a fistful in reserve? You can bet on it. Introduction of an orphan. In the desert of senescence, I've come around to holding myself like a baby. They say I have no father, that here is no love, that I pass through this rented century, performing a little cha-cha as I step and step again, an itinerant mouse in a landscape of fallen leaves. I'm merely here, and the knives and forks I eat with, plastic. The laundry basket cracks, snow tires claim to save, sunscreen slathered between the sun and the skin I wear, and you inject me for a millisecond. All this seems believable. The desire is traded for endless stacks of colored paper and a suitcase full of nickels. The art laying about looks askance at a soul shuffling place to place. Place setting. Goblins and godlights, we face Lake Erie, travel tonight by freight and husky moon. We know we're afloat in a theater of lights, alone but not lonely, sharing a poem we've heard before, and stop on the page we agreed to walk ourselves off at the end. Annunciata, impregnated by light, heavy with self, offering a child. Thank you.
Thank you, Maury. Awesome.
Thanks, Maury. Sometimes short is beautiful. That's a beautiful poem. I don't think I've heard that one yet.
No, I wrote a brand new poem for that image. So that was interesting. This is the first time I've ever done anything like this. And I have to say, it wasn't easy, but I mean, I feel like I'm a better person for doing it.
That's
Very
awesome.
good. Very good. I liked your poem, the one at the table setting. It's just seemed like a perfect lockdown poem. Or
Yeah, no kidding. I hadn't thought of it that way, but yeah.
I'm glad we've made you a better person, Maury.
yeah.
So am I.
Okay, Tom, you're up again, sir.
Okay. This one is called Winter Solstice. And I have to tell this little story. This is so crazy because it's so Welland. Just before Christmas, I went into a our local jewelry store just down the street, and we all got masks on and everything. And suddenly I hear hollering across the way, Tom Wood the poet. Because I had given my name to pick something up, and I hear this voice yell across, "Are you Tom Wood the poet?" And I'm looking around, I'm thinking, I've never been addressed like this before. Anyways, it was Wendy. Not to break your anonymity, Wendy, or anything like that. And it was really just kind of funny because here we are in this tiny little town with masks on, and anyway, I just thought I had to tell that. Winter solstice. In the palm of ice and snow, I rekindle from the shadow. Light is not as fickle as my faith, a promise sheathed in the coil of this consummate orb. Wizardry, my darkness, quitted to the light. Sisters on a Bike. This too is an older poem, but it just fit so well, I think. Sisters on a Bike. They were wind blown in from the sea, smiles blown on salty crests. I'm going to start again because I screwed that up. See, I do better at other people's poems. I'm going to start again. Sisters on a Bike. They were wind from the sea, smiles blown in on salty crests and foam sprayed from north of glee, hyphened by the dry metal moan of squeaky springs and the irrepressible flap of their polka dot dresses. No soul heard the popcorn crack of hot tar bubbles beneath the press of tires, only laughter. Sisters, spoked in golden strands, sheer summer delight. Okay. And you know what? I'm going to come clean on this, Darren. I'm going to come clean on this, and I'm going to tell a little story because I phoned Darren this afternoon at about I don't know 2 o'clock, and I panicked because I printed off the agenda for the meeting, and I looked up and I thought I saw staircase up top, and then I saw staircase down below, and I realized that I had sent the one poem. I had sent the same poem in twice. However, I completely redid the back end of the poem, and I'm going to read the original poem, but I'm going to read the new version of Staircase. And if that doesn't make any sense to any of you, that's perfectly fine. Staircase. Sun rays spill through the fissures. Staircase for dismounted souls. Cascade the shafts. Tireless streams descending in the kiss of mist. Sighs absolved, spotless. And this last one. This was probably my favorite one to write because it just brought up a massive memory for me when I was a little boy. And yeah, it just brought up a huge memory for me. And I called it 1955. I peek above the rim of this molded door, looping grins, telephone wires scudding past my window. I am throned on a bench of scratchy Bedford cord, the back of my grandfather's Dodge, knees rigid, helpless to reach the bluff, to dangle, tiny me, claiming this whole glorious commonwealth, mine for the taking. I look away from the laws of motion to hear his Glasgow brogue seep into my ears, my grandmother's laughter, warbling. Now I steer what is left of them along my road, glimpsing in the mirror at their countenance. Passengers stitched into the fabric of my backseat, me driving on, this patchy reminiscence of rusted joy. And maybe I should speak in a higher voice for Elaine, but that might not be a good idea. Okay. A sacred place. In silence, Mother Nature wakes as morning breaks up the lake where silhouettes glide with quiet grace, or magenta ripples on a silver face through a veil of mist where peace is found in the beauty of life that in silence abounds in this sacred place. Behind the yellow door. Looking out at the old oak tree in my front yard today, I see myself as she is, stripped of all my former beauty by the passing of the seasons. I know you may find it hard to believe that I once was as beautiful as a southern belle and as eloquent and demure as one who could ever be. But time changes everything. I once had a family, Mama and Papa. I can still hear their voices. And the children, Bobby and Mary Beth. I imagine I see them playing outside the yellow door. Yellow because it is Mama's favorite color. She says it is the color of joy. I know it is just memories that bring them back to me for fleeting moments in my old age, but these memories are all I have left, and they bring me much comfort. But the truth of the matter is, they are all gone but Mama. Mary Beth grew up and became a journalist, living her dream of globetrotting. Her bicycle still stands beneath those barren limbs, waiting, like me, for her to return. I believe it was the sound of silence that fell between Mamma and Papa and the soft weeping that crept from their separate bedrooms in the night that finally drove Mary Beth away. If I could only erase one day in time, it would be that summer morning when Bobby left to go fishing with his buddy, Eddie. But the fish went on to live another day when one intoxicated individual behind the wheel of a speeding vehicle rounded the bend in the road lost his grip on reality and sent another unsuspecting child of God before his time to heaven. The heavy weight of grief that followed that tragedy over time finally broke through the fabric of the family, leaving a hole that no amount of mending could repair. Papa's heart finally broke 13 years later. He died on the same day that 13-year-old Bobby died. Mama is still alive, living for those 2 weeks a year each summer when Mary Beth takes a break from her globetrotting and comes home. Mary Beth is a well-known journalist now, 1 year away from her 65th birthday with no thought of retiring. In celebration of these occasions, Mama puts a fresh coat of yellow paint on my door and sits in her rocking chair on my porch, counting the hours and minutes until Mary Beth arrives. Mama is old and frail now, as am I, and I wonder if she will make it through another winter. And as I look out at those barren limbs on the old oak, I wonder if my door will ever wear another coat of joy. And the next one is called Against All Odds. Within these iron walls, rooted.
Sorry,
Oops.
Tom, wait
No,
1 second here.
I'm looking at the paper. Sorry, Darren.
No worries, I'm just trying to get this to. There we go.
Okay. That's what I need to see right there. Against all odds. With these iron walls rooted deeply in the rocky history of time, nary to know what lies beyond their imprisoning restraints, they bloom in all their glory, in vibrant shades of green, the color of life, empowered by the unquenchable will to survive. And the next one is called All Too Soon. One windy night upon my breast I felt the kiss of winter's breath, a breath that blew me into flight upon my breast one windy night. A leaf once green, now bathed in red, with coat of spring and summer shed, true color bursting at the seams, now bathed in red, a leaf once green. Upon your breath I learned to fly, a flame of glory in the sky. not knowing that the price was death. I learned to fly upon your breath. But all too soon I came and went. The seasons of my life were spent. A bud in spring that came to bloom. I came and went, but all too soon.
So good.
Good read, Tom.
Thank you.
Thank you, Elaine.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you, Elaine.
Okay, and now we've got Keith again.
Okay, first one up is Cook's Mills from One Cannon Fire. I kind of took off from this picture, however, just say the uniforms don't match the war I'm talking about, but the arrow looks pretty good. Cook's Mills. We pounded their line with the 6-pounder as they scrambled for the tall grass or scuttled behind rocks as heaven's lace smoked the trees, billowed the meadow, and rolled on over the Chippewa, her waters leavened with drifting ash in the swirling dark eddies of torn bodies. The blessed receiving a clean shot, while the wounded drained in cold fits of sweat. Next one. Had fun with this one. It was a much longer poem, but it ended up getting condensed. Girl with Hat. She radiates gravity like a future porcelain self, brightly determined to bend light. Next one's called Of Lace. The road is open now. George having worked a good hole in the beaver dam before rattling off to war across the new stream he'd made, though the beavers just about have it plugged already. He said he would open the lower field, that the girls and I could work it for fall maybe, plow the wildflowers too, though it'd be hard, giving up the bluebirds and their knitting the Queen Anne's up the rise. Next one I called Spring Confection. Summer waits behind the staggered wall of frost-blown trees, guarding winter's late wandering, these dreams of isolation. And that's all I have, except the third verse of the last one, which is going to be fun.
Okay, so just a little background for everyone watching. When we were picking poems, there was an odd number, and this one was basically picked by all of the poets, and we decided to do a collaboration. So Valerie Frost, you're lucky. We've got 4 poets each who have written a verse for this poem. So I'm going to ask you all to read your verse as it comes up. Of course, Tom, you can read yours and Elaine's.
Okay,
Okay.
now hold on, because I don't have Elaine's, and I don't. Does if either of
Okay.
the other 2 poets has the entire poem, I would relinquish my voice to them.
And can I just add that I don't have the poem either. I just assumed that someone else was reading it, so I didn't.
Oh, okay.
Keith?
Yeah, I just have my section.
Oh my God.
Okay, I have the entire poem here.
Well, you're up then, buddy.
So Tom, you've got your part, right?
No, I don't.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
I do, but it's hidden in my computer somewhere.
Okay, Keith, I'm going to read the first 2 and you take number 3 and I'll read the last one, okay?
Okay.
Here we go. Forgive my non-poetry reading.
Go for it.
And what's the title again? It's a
Centuride.
Centuride. Okay. What propels the dart in this cohesion of geometry? This bow tension is faultless, potential unqualified, neither straight nor true. Crystal blue, what calls for the risk of wings? The cloven hooved tamps the ground where the futility struck. Run, you fool, as the pent-up energy trumps. She takes aim to pin the rings and nicks that float his head. And now, Keith, the third verse.
Third verses are never the same as the first. Ask Gatto or the hermits. They know about X's and exits. Henny here shooting for another king to crown.
Listen, people, do I hear my heart beat? Once again, I'm into something good. Now that Henry V and the king of broken hearts have come and gone, I, someone who cares, high on a horse, best seat in the house, taking aim for a bullseye hit and another king to crown.
Oh, I like it.
That kind of comes together scary like,
Yeah, it did.
because we didn't know what each other was writing.
That's right.
That's the fun of it.
That's right.
Good job, guys.
Awesome. Awesome work tonight.
That was very interesting. Thanks, everyone.
Oh, this is super.
For sure. I was our second year at it. Darren, thanks so much for putting this together. It's always a really cool evening.
You're welcome. Thank you to all of the photographers and of course our poets who took part. I really think that we're going to try and do this again next year. I'm 99% sure. It was great. It was awesome. The only way it could be better is if we were in person, so we could
Here, here.
Exactly.
riff off each other.
Very hopeful that next year we'll be back at the church and things will
Yeah, hopefully.
progress as normal.
Hoping.
Totally enjoyable evening.
Yeah.
Beautiful
Yeah, really
pictures
good.
and very touching poems. Well done.
Thank
That,
you.
that last poem, you guys did a really great job, especially when you didn't know who was writing what for which part. It's like, that was super.
We just passed
Sure.
it along. We just kept passing it along. So it worked out good.
Yes, it did.
It was great.
And thank you
to
very
say
much,
that-
Darren. Thank you for all the work you did in this and everybody else who put this together, because I don't think this is an easy task at all. And it was wonderful.
It's fun. It's fun. It's fun
Yeah,
for me because
absolutely.
I get to
Great
see
job.
the images coming in. Keith, go ahead.
I was just going to mention that also the night that we met to choose the pictures was super. It was very interesting and the images were, I mean, just fantastic to work with. So it was excellent photography.
Well, I'll be in touch soon for picking next year's. Unfortunately, you won't be coming over. But so it won't be as enjoyable, but we'll figure out a way to do it.
Awesome.
Sounds good.
Darren.
Good.
And I